Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us in the first panel session. It's my great honor to moderate this session. I presented in this conference 2 years ago, and to be honest, I was really interested in more educational. As Mel introduced me, I'm more into stem cell cancer research. I'm the chair of recruitment in our department, but I'm really interested when it comes to educational tools, implementing new emerging technology like virtual simulator, VR, and recently AI in kind of my regenerative medicine module. So what we will do today is we're going to introduce the panel, and then we have a set of questions, and we can take some of your questions as well. So I'm going to start first with Dr. Mo Zandi. Mo, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Mo Zandi from the University of Sheffield. I'm a professor in chemical engineering education. So we already had a bit of the start of the AI. We are all AI positive, possibly use AI to navigate your way here. You use AI to write, or correct your abstract, or AI made a decision for you to sum up. So we all have got the AI possibly in all these devices that you have got in your pocket as well. And if you look at the statistics, the more than 80% of the businesses are using AI, and then you can see a huge surge in the number of the businesses are also using generative AI, Gen AI too. As we develop technologies, we are bringing benefits to the society, but at the same time, we are inventing some harm as well. I really like the Paul's, the French philosopher's quote here. And I think AI is no exception to that as well. If you look at the literature, we are all in drilling AI. So we are drilling AI. If you look at the all the time literature, I'm talking about here academic journals. I'm not talking about the web pages or informal or gray literature, we call it. If you search for the AI or artificial intelligence or machine learning, you will find about 1.6 million papers published in that area. But if you look at the other aspects like ethical concern or job displacement or replacement, or you look at the workforce, goes suddenly to around 31K papers. And then the area where I'm coming from engineering, I'm a chemical engineer. If you look at that and narrow it down, you reach around 420 papers in that area. And then you exclude things like healthcare or banking, you see less than 400 papers published in the areas of the ethics of AI. So let's just think and address the big elephant in the room. And is that our education system fit enough for the future? The landscape is changing, in my opinion, and our education system is not really, at the moment, reactive. It's not thinking and it's not changing fast enough. So in my opinion, we have to embed AI ethics at the first instance in the engineering education. And then we have to teach to our students about the ethics and safety of the AI in the first stage throughout the courses, not at the once part of the course as a tick in the box. That's my opening statement, and I'm looking forward to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So let me introduce the second member of the panel, Dr. Francesco, who's a senior lecturer in engineering education at King's.
Thanks, Rana. Thanks to IAFOR for inviting us. King's College London is a university that's based just next to Senate House. We share a wall with it, and it's just by the river, very close to Westminster and Trafalgar Square. As an engineering school, we have a lovely claim. We're the oldest and newest engineering department in the UK. As a college, we were founded about 200 years ago, and we had prominent scientists and engineers like Wheatstone and Maxwell. And in 2019, we recreated an engineering department pretty much from scratch after several years in which it closed. And we were forced to reimagine a lot of the pedagogy around the way our students use technology and the way they develop global leadership skills. And we came up with what we referred to as a create first pedagogy, in which we asked students to make real and meaningful projects by using some of the new technologies that are emerging and becoming prominent in our profession. So with this in mind, I wanted to provide a brief position statement that encapsulates some of our new pedagogy. And it starts from the idea that if we're coaching future engineers, they will be the one, and scientists, they will be the ones responsible for embodying intelligence within the physical world. And that comes with responsibilities towards the safety of how this equipment is used, as well as its effectiveness in dealing with real inputs. And as we'll converse with you and talk more about the role of AI within your own disciplines, I do want to advocate, by showing you an example of one of our courses, that AI is a complex beast, and we really need to expand our singular views of AI in the sense that AI tools are pervasive within the whole of our design process as engineers. We use them to synthesize high-level system models, for example, of aircraft. We use them to shape the geometry of the things that we develop, as well as manufacture and control the systems that we'll end up using. And within this new world of engineering, it's really important that our education systems adapt. And one thing that we've been really trying to push at the institution is the idea of critical making, which means the contiguous critical discourse that goes along with the building of physical systems. And we're really trying to move and more from away from just imparting knowledge to our students, but to developing their skills to be able to control some of the new tools that they're using, gain feedback from the physical world, and then make AI become way more meaningful and impactful by actually building systems that people will use. So I'll close my position statement there, and I welcome any more thoughts from everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesco. Our third panel member is Dr. Fiona, who is the Associate Professor in IEP within the Faculty of Engineering at UCL.
Ooh, too far. Cool, thank you. So, my day job in the Centre for Engineering Education is running interdisciplinary team projects. So we were really interested in how we could use it as a tool to support students in different parts of the skill sets that they were learning in these, and particularly in writing skills. UCL has a very high percentage of international students. People don't come fluent in English necessarily, but also students have disabilities like dyslexia, but also lots of our students come from physics and maths backgrounds, not known for extensive essays, right? Where we're getting the students to write long form pieces of writing. So we really felt like we wanted to talk about AI in a way that was very positive, very much in the way that Anne mentioned. Because we do interdisciplinary project work, we get the students to actually build something in the classroom. We were pretty confident that copy-paste wasn't going to work very well. You have to collect some data and you have to know what you're talking about. We also do a lot of live assessments, discussions with students, informal mentoring. So we were like, we're going to know when you just copy-paste in this process. But these tools are useful. We do need to teach you how to use these for your future employment, because I use them, everyone in this room uses them, we use them extensively. So how do we think about teaching it in the context of writing in an engineering context? Certainly that's what we did, and really we kind of feel this approach is quite useful beyond engineering. So what we did was we had a two-part approach. We had some teaching, we talked with students, what is this beneficial for? But we also talked about the issues with AI. A lot of what we do is embed stuff like sustainability and ethics, and that's my particular specialism within project work. It's very hypocritical to be telling people how to make something more sustainable when you're using a tool that uses a vast quantity of energy and water, right? So we need to think about the choices we're making when we make this. We also included a declaration. So we wanted students to think about this normal way of writing. You just declare that you used AI. That's fine, right? Very similar to the idea that we have with referencing. This is my external source that I use to talk about in my writing. This is the external Gen AI tool that I use to improve my writing. But we really wanted those to be two different things because we didn't want the students to be kind of citing ChatGPT as if it was the same as a journal paper. Because we all know there are issues with ChatGPT and kind of make stuff up sometimes, right? So we really wanted to do that different. Then what we realized after we put this Microsoft form is we have an enormous data set that we can look at stuff with because we teach on a really big level. So we had about 900 plus students in responses because this is part of the teaching that we did. 85% response rate. So we had said to students, if you don't fill it in, there is no marks penalty. Right. So some people just did not fill in these kind of forms. And what we could actually look at is what are the students using it for? Because we do tend to assume that all students all want to use it and they'll use it for exactly the same stuff. We do have like more information kind of going into it, but I don't want to kind of drown you with graphs. But one of the things we found quite interesting was only about 45% of our students use generative AI tools. What we did find is students don't necessarily know what a generative AI tool is, right? Okay. This data is from 2023. We've collected it again for the 24-25 academic year, and we're going to do a comparative study. But they're bringing stuff like spelling and grammar in, which now Copilot is embedded into that stuff, so it may come slightly different. But 15% of students vehemently said they didn't use it, which we found really interesting. In the assumption that everyone uses it all the time and they will use it, students are making that choice not to use it. So there is a lot of variety of opinion in this space. So this is where we were kind of looking at what is the actual use case for these stuff. So that's the stuff that we've been looking at in relation to AI. So thank you. Good question.
Last but not least, Dr. Lian, who is an honorary research fellow in the Center of Education and assistant professor in the Teaching and Learning Innovation Center at Hong Kong University.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lian Luk, and I'm from Teaching and Learning Innovation Center from the University of Hong Kong. And I was previously research fellow in the Center for Engineering Education, so I'm very happy to be back. So thank you, Arana, and also Chika for inviting me to be part of this panel. So currently, my research area is in career development and employability, as well as AI feedback literacy. So in the next 2 slides, I only have 2 slides, I would like to share the current state of AI in teaching and learning in the University of Hong Kong. And at the same time, I'll be presenting some questions, hopefully to trigger some thoughts so that you can join our panel discussion and conversation later. So how is your university preparing students for the future and for the AI era? So in the University of Hong Kong, we are actually going to run this AI literacy course, part 1 of it, this coming September in the new cohort. It will be offered by the School of Computational and Data Science. So this is a compulsory course for all Year 1 students starting from September this year. So the aim of this course is to introduce students to some fundamental concepts and principles of AI, help them develop the ability to interact with AI systems effectively, equip them with the knowledge to navigate AI technologies responsibly. And then there is plans for AI Literacy 2. The second course will be run next year. So we are now calling for all faculties to come up with proposals on this AI Literacy 2 course, which will be running in semester 2 next year. So this will be a discipline-specific course, which will be offered by each individual faculty. So this is the plan. But this is just what the university is trying to do to better support students in the use of AI. But then, how much do we know about what our students' experiences of and feelings towards AI? So here are some very recent findings from some of my conversation with a student participant in the research study, which I'm now running. So from the quotes here, we can see that students are actually quite worried about their work being detected, as AI generated, even if they completely wrote the piece of work by themselves. And then there is also some students who are worried that they can't defend themselves if their teacher say that their work is being AI generated. And some students also mention that they feel that it's unfair if they later find out that their peer did better than them after using a ChatGPT, but they didn't. So here are some of the things that I thought I would bring up to get you thinking about what can we better do to help students, to better support students in using AI. Yep, that's all from me. Yeah, thank you very much.
I mean, we're going to have sets of questions on different kind of area, on sustainability, on employability, and kind of changing education and university strategies. So we can start. Thank you. So maybe following up with the question in the session before regarding employability and based on your presentation, Lilian, maybe we can start with the role of AI and employability. And the first question would be how could universities prepare the student for an AI-enhanced job market, and which kind of skills we should give to the students so when they graduate, they're ready for AI jobs. Anyone wants to start?
Yeah, I could take it, no problem. I'll be relatively brief. I mean, it's definitely true that the professional market now in the UK is very different from the one even we experienced as graduates, talking about 10, 15 years ago, and AI has only shifted in a way that it's very hard to stand out now. Companies are flooded with resumes, and we kind of need, and your degree isn't enough. So we kind of need to create projects and experiences for our students so they can actually be way more visible to employers, maybe already connected within the university or from the university, so that then they can transition to meaningful work, whether it's employment or self-employed or more exciting projects that are in the social space. That's something that has completely transformed. So I think we now live in an age where visibility is quite challenging because everyone wants it. And AI skills are part of this. It's part of the presenting yourself well and presenting yourself in a way that maybe you don't even sound like it's been generated by AI, and it's more meaningful and it's touching people.
Yes.
So I think Anne mentioned about in her opening speech about the future engineers. I'm sorry I'm talking about engineer manufacturing because that's my discipline. So we have to acknowledge that AI is here and is going to change the future. And possibly, as is well known, we say that AI is going to replace the people who don't know how to use AI. So people who know how to use AI have got jobs, but the people who haven't got any knowledge of AI will be replaced by AI. That people who have got the AI skills. However, I think from me is very important we embrace the AI, we be positive about it, we talk to the students about it, but also the change of the education system. That's the role of educators is going to change, because if you think about it, we used to be traditional about the knowledge transfer, but now we have to move around the skills development. And one of the critical skills here is very important is critical thinking. If you want to use the AI, you have to understand and analyze the output of the AI. And that critical thinking, that creativity it's very important that we have to have more of that in our education system, especially in engineering.
And I think in the interdisciplinary space, one of the barriers to interdisciplinary work is that each discipline has its own language, its own concepts, its own way of talking about stuff. One of the things that we can use AI to is break down those barriers. If I want to walk into social sciences, sociology, I have to learn all the terminology. If I can have something in my pocket, I go, "Ooh, what does that mean?" And it can give me a kind of natural language description of what it is on the fly. That's really useful for facilitating interdisciplinarity.
Yeah, I think a discipline-specific training is important for students because different discipline, for example, like architecture, they may use different kind of AI applications. They may use Midjourney, which are more useful for design, for example. So I don't think a single general AI training for all undergraduate students would work the same way as more discipline-specific kind of training.
Thank you. So I know we're talking about more STEM, more engineer, because of all of our background is engineering. So let's just talk about engineering. And mention that most of the assessment in engineering are kind of like coursework, and most of them are group work, especially with the challenges and design project. So how can AI be used to support the student, especially delivering kind of innovative stuff when it comes to group-based project or design-based project?
Yeah, so one of the things we've seen students use AI for in group work is creating visualizations of their ideas. So it's great that they can produce something rather than, it's a little bit like this, it's a little bit like this, I hope you can think about it in your head. They can produce, the company logo for their fictional company that they're working on. And it just makes it feel more authentic for students. They feel like, oh yeah, we've got an identity, we've got a company. So it really helps them facilitate that process. And it can help with the writing process as well. If you're not confident with your writing, and maybe you don't necessarily want to show it to everyone else, because maybe you're a bit concerned about how they're going to react, you can get it to polish your writing for you and give you feedback. So it can really help those places where there might be friction between team members. It can really help there as well.
Go on.
Actually, talking about students working in teams, I think one way to do it is to have peer-led workshops on AI, the use of AI tools, because nowadays, I think students can be much more advanced than us in terms of the use of AI tools. So I think doing some students as partners work would be one way to go.
Thank you. The advice I give to students is that use AI as your intern, as your assistant here. Supervise your AI. So here, the AI is smarter than us. AI can analyze the information faster, can write much faster than us in a matter of seconds. You have got a nice paper there. But then use the time to do more high-level stuff. You're talking about the teamwork, and teamwork is very important. That AI cannot do the teamwork for us. So we can use that space that AI is doing all those analysis and writing and then other stuff, that to do more, spend more time with our students together to focus on their teamwork, to think about the design, think about being more creative and develop those other skills that AI cannot do it for them.
Yeah, and transversely, when you're planning activities that involve some form of AI, do bear in mind that learning is still very much a social dynamic. So you don't want your learners to just get stuck into and just converse with the tool, with only the tool. You want to create activities in which there's peer dialogue, and it's a joint effort from the learning group in the way that they then interact with the tool and extract the information out of it. So I love your example, Fiona, of AI-assisted sketching as a way of bringing people together around a piece of paper and then materializing an image of what it would actually look like. I think be careful of not creating activities where students shut both you as an instructor and their peers off because they can get all their information quite quickly and with not too much awkwardness from an AI tool.
Yeah, I'm just going to speak about my small experience with AI. So we were trying to optimize one of the tools according to one of my modules. So I teach within the Faculty of Engineering. So I basically have students across Chem-Eng, Mech-Eng, computer science, and everything. And one of the module is kind of design project, but when it comes to regenerative medicine. So I give them that scenario, you're a startup company, you're going to do the whole process of a therapy from scratch. You have to give some innovative idea, something new to do mass balances, cost of goods, and everything. So we tried to train a special tool and ask the students, and we did kind of like a survey. The good thing that in one of the questions in the survey, do you still need the staff to explain to you? So they said yes. So thank God they still need me as an instructor for further help. But when they used it, they were trying to get kind of like a new idea on, and especially if something could be feasible when it comes to their therapy. But funny enough that this tool did not help them. It depends on the section. So when it comes to mass balances, it did not help them a lot. So they had to go into literature and calculate the things. But in certain kind of different aspect, it did. So because we spoke about engineering now, let's say in the IAP you have engineering, non-engineering students as well. So how can AI facilitate this kind of interdisciplinary collaboration between engineering and non-engineering students?
Yeah, so the thing with interdisciplinarity is it's teamwork plus. So, all the things that you can use AI for within teamwork within a discipline, you can use it within interdisciplinarity, but you've got the added complexity of if you're working with, for example, a management student or we have security and crime science as part of the engineering faculty at UCL. There is their background knowledge, and they may come into an engineering space and they'll be like, what is the design cycle exactly? And in engineering, it's just everywhere. It's a way of us thinking about how we problem solve, right? We have this framing. So it's really useful for breaking down those barriers in interdisciplinary teamwork. And again, that kind of, we need to create something. How do we have that conversation? Can we bounce ideas off of it? That really becomes really quite powerful in an interdisciplinary context when you've got less shared experience.
More experience with non-engineers?
No, I totally agree. I think it's very useful tool to break those barriers and facilitate the communication. You can easily use the AI to simplify. I mean, I've seen in some of my discipline, chemical engineering, the AI is being used to simplify or re-explain some of the very difficult context. And the AI is basically reading a YouTube video, 2 hours YouTube video, and kind of channel it, if you like, for the audience who haven't got those technical expertise in chemical engineering. And it really helps to democratize knowledge as well, because we're talking about this benefit of these technology. And one of those is just democratization of technology and the knowledge that everyone can understand, everyone can share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I echo what you mentioned, more especially, for example, I have students from medical sciences, and when it comes to explaining things about bioprocessing or manufacturing, they really don't have the background and they feel intimidated by other students who already have the knowledge in bioprocessing. So AI for them was really helpful, especially when it comes to summarizing the papers and read more about it and that. More comments on the interdisciplinary? Shall we move?
Well, maybe just one to flip it a little bit. If you don't have an interdisciplinary context like you guys have at IAP, which is fantastic, you could use AI to bring it into a learning activity, in the sense that, for example, we do use AI to create customer requirements and then create fictitious customers. And while you need to be wary that it will reflect some of the stuff that you tell it, it could definitely serve as a sort of extra discipline that you might not have access to, or the extra stakeholder that is just beyond your reach.
Yeah, So I feel like really AI can bridge between the different kind of languages that we use between engineer and non-engineer. Now, sustainability is a big topic, even for us in cell and gene therapy manufacturing. We're heading towards more sustainability. Now, let's explore the role of AI actually in sustainability. So how can AI be used to embed sustainability into design thinking or critical thinking and product development?
Well, let me start. This is very
very big topic.
Very big topic. But I think the first thing goes back to my opponent that do we need AI to solve the problem? I think that's the first lesson for a student to think sustainability is that don't jump on the, for example, ChatGPT or DeepSeek or any tool to type your question there. When you are doing that prompt, you are basically emitting some CO2 somewhere in the world into the atmosphere. You're consuming energy. Is it really necessary? And really, these are the things that we have to talk about it. And we know that, for example, Google is thinking about building their own nuclear power station to run those data centers, to run their tools, possibly Google Gemini. So it's very important that we bring that sustainability into the discussion and then start from there. And then, of course, we can help to analyze information or think about other aspects because we have to think about the systems approach and then the complex system. Otherwise, is outside our basically one person's remit to look at the whole system. AI can help us as our assistant to facilitate those knowledge digestion, if you like. But sustainability should be at the forefront of our thinking when we're going to use AI.
Yeah, one of the cruxes with sustainability is that it's incredibly context dependent, and sometimes the right answer is not the obvious one. So you do have to be quite careful to be able to teach that and to make sustainability meaningful for whatever the students go on and design. One thing that I've failed at myself as an educator is to try and use AI tools to try and ideate sustainability interventions. And then they lack a proper, what I found, at least in our experience, is that they lack a proper foundation within the product that the students are then developing because we went technology first. But the reality is that you have to go context and people first when you're dealing with sustainability. But it can help branch out and ideate and come up with better choices, or wider consideration is the better word. But better choices is actually the trickier one, because the amount of analysis you need to do to be able to actually prove that a product is sustainable is still somewhat out of reach of these tools. There are companies that are looking into it, but the promise of sort of automated life cycle assessments have been around for the last 30 years and no one's really delivered on it yet.
Yeah, I think it's key for the students to understand the context that they use AI in and what it can and can't do. I mean, we do see students, they immediately go, it's like Google now. I'm just going to do 15 different searches. And I think it's something like it uses 15 milliliters of water for every ChatGPT query you put in. You quickly get to 100 mils of water in like 10 minutes putting in stuff. So really getting students, not to say, no, you shouldn't be using it, but with all of these things, there are positives and negatives. And these are really fantastic skills for our students generally, around, not just around AI, but, one of the things I love about engineering is the fact that the stuff we do has really immediate consequences, right? We really see the impact, and getting students to consider what is it, the impact of your decisions that you're making, how are you going to use that tool? Because it's not, there are uses for it, but there aren't. And this is for the wider ideas around sustainability. Sustainability is this discussion of how do we use the resources we've got in a way that we can going forward. And it's kind of a small version of the larger question we're investigating.
I think this discussion really echoes one of the quotes which I presented earlier from a student will actually step back to think about whether he really needs to use it, or is his use basically influenced by the social media. Now you see on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, with all the different kinds of advertisement about different the latest AI tools. So I think I myself feel overwhelmed with the different, the fast-paced change and development of new tools. So I think it's something that we should think about, to whether we really need to use it, and for students to think about whether they need to use it.
Yeah. I know with the recent emergence of AI, it's like invading all of the kind of fields. So that's why I'm trying to pick some questions from different kind of fields. So we've talked about sustainability, now more into the ethics and kind of like university strategies. So what do you think are the key ethical considerations for universities to have when integrating AI in the education?
If you look at for example, Russell Group, there is a statement on the use of AI in the university, and the university are trying to embrace it. We have seen now in for example, for assessments, we are asking the students to have a declaration if they use AI to write a piece of work, and then that's the positive steps. But as we talk about the sustainability, I think we have to really take the students think about the ethical use of the AI. In the first place, do I need the AI? And if I'm going to use it, they have to think about, for example, the data privacy and the cyber security aspects of that. It's very important. One of the things that I'm quite concerned around the use of AI is the access here. So as you know, that if you want a good AI, you have to pay for it. And not all the students are able to afford those expensive subscriptions. So I think we have to be quite think about the accessibility and think about how a student is going to get access to that. So some universities provide the AI part of the platforms. For example, Sheffield University, we have got a Gemini available to all the students. I'm not saying that it's the most advanced Gemini one. If you want a better one, you have to pay for it. But at least it's the platform for the students. So that equity is very important in the ethical use of AI.
I think one of the big ethical challenges we have at university level is there is this concern of how do we make our assessments AI proof? And the default is to go back to exams. And we've done a lot of work on bringing in coursework, things that happen in the classroom, loads of different methods of assessment to support students who have disabilities, inclusivity, make it more authentic, but also spread out the load for students. It's very stressful if everything is on a 3-hour exam at the end of the year. And by reverting to exams, because we know it's AI proof, we're losing all of those gains to make our programs more accessible, more kind of equitable to students, and just nicer places to be at university. So this is a kind of question, and I think something that the universities are going to have to deal with going forward.
Yeah, I think it's one of the strategies that we are reconsidering now at university level. Do we decrease the coursework or have it in-person test, in-class test, which is still kind of like a debate?
Yeah, I think in a way, right from the start, right from the first year, I think it is important to support students in forming this kind of learning attitude. Why are they here in the university learning? I mean, why should they attend classes? If they can learn online, So I think it's the attitude which will make a difference, because we cannot totally, control students in their use of AI. It's rather they need to understand themselves that if they are fully using AI, they are not learning. I think this needs to be made clear to students right at the beginning. Yeah.
I totally agree, and I think the sad thing is that we're quite reactive. As we said, I've seen colleagues moving towards more exams. In engineering education, we made a huge progress moving from the exams into the kind of project problem-based teaching, more into the courses, so we can encourage more critical thinking, problem-solving skills, and teamwork, etc. But because of that, AI is coming, now we're coming, colleagues are quite reactive. And that's why I'm saying we have to have more conversation around the education system, the role of the education system in kind of the open source knowledge now. So in the time was that the knowledge was in the hands of the universities. Now you can go and we have fantastic YouTube videos that teach better than me in the classroom, and you can learn better. So you have to think about the role of the education system in that, and then think about how we're going to change and be proactive and be innovative in our education system rather than reactive.
Yeah, and a lot of sort of the ethics teaching in the UK, at least, if you look back as far as sort of 10, 15 years ago, it tended to be sort of a bit of a checkbox in accreditation. You had the ethics course, possibly combined with management, usually taught by women, and somewhat trivialized in the sense that, here's a set of activities that are relatively low stakes and completely disconnected from the rest of the degree. Now, I think through project-based work and through better education systems, we're trying to embed ethics from day one. And why not just oppose it to AI? Why don't you make your groups use Gen AI maybe to come up with a group contract? Why don't you set a challenge that does have ethical implications that need to be addressed? Or why don't you do hacking activities as icebreakers? Maybe look at prompt injections, look at stuff that can that's very real and really affects our students. So I think that is an important dimension to consider as we move forward, is that we keep things connected and we keep things sort of interdisciplinary and don't create silos within our education systems.
I just want to add that we shouldn't forget students. And I think the other side, the other stakeholder are students. So we need the students in this conversation as well. I wish we had some students there to ask them as well. So there are partners in education, and we as educators, we are looking at this, but also we have to include the students in that conversation, how the education is going to look like.
I think most of this conversation, we're targeting more undergraduate students. So now the other thing which is alerting, like from our side as well, from UCL, is the impact of AI on PhD or postgraduate research. Now, I know PhD research can vary from one discipline to another, engineering, science, or maybe more focus, more research or desk-based focused research. So how AI is reshaping the research landscape for PhD students?
So there was a very nice, interesting article on Times Higher Education, I think around January, which with some statistics that around, it's a very small study, but around 50% or 54% of the PhD students are using ChatGPT. And there was some interesting quotes from the students that the ChatGPT is a better supervisor. So yes, and often in this conversation, we focus on the undergraduates, but the PhDs are, so I totally agree.
Yeah. I remember during my PhD, I complained to my mom about how difficult it was to get online journals. Like, oh, this one wasn't available, I can't get it. My mom went, I had to go to a library to get a journal paper. Like, I couldn't just flick through 5 and see which one I liked. And I think AI is that kind of revolution of the version of online, journals. Information is now much more accessible. So the research, finding out what the background literature is, finding out different things, is now much, much easier. And our PhD students, the focus is no longer on, can you find enough papers? Are you going to trek to the library and read all of this stuff? Is really critically evaluating the information they've got, bringing it together in an argument, finding that original piece of research and their original voice, which is maybe just shifting the focus of a PhD from what it was.
Don't you consider it kind of like alerting if I've asked the students to provide me with a draft, they haven't started working on it, and then in one night they will send me a draft? I will be worried that how they're going to go to their Viva.
Very much.
Will AI help them in their Viva?
Yeah.
This is not official. This is some of the even journals are using AI to write feedback on the your publications. So it is alarming, but I think again we have to be transparent, and then we have to learn about to use it ethically, and that's again goes back to our PhD or even academics training as well.
Sure. So maybe we should incorporate kind of like AI in the PhD modules that they should take as core module, basically.
Yeah, I think we need to teach PhD students things. We kind of can't just assume that they'll work it out. We do this quite a lot. Oh, you're a PhD student now, you'll get there. If we want them to do something, we should probably teach them.
I suppose also as a supervisor, we need to understand how we incentivize their work. And I guess this reflects on the whole industry in the sense that academics are meant to have impact on the world. But so often we just get stuck into, well, let's increase that publication record. And I think we need to come up with better ways of rewarding genuine impact and collaborations and meaningful experiences given to real people, as opposed to numbers. And I think once we do that, we can kind of reduce or mitigate a lot of the risks of some of our PhD students interacting with some of these tools in negative ways as opposed to positive ones.
Actually, now I ask my PhD student to meet me once every 3 months to not only go through a draft of her writing, but also to have conversation about her work process, her research process. I think this really helps. A conversation is something that she can't, use AI to prepare.
That's a good strategy, Lilian. So jumping to another topic, which is AI and creativity. I know we spoke about critical thinking and creativity. Will AI enhance kind of like creativity for the students? So I know we touched base on that, but how can we as educator make sure that even though we know that the students are using AI, how can we enhance their creativity while using AI?
But I think it kind of comes back to this idea of AI as a tool to facilitate stuff. So, we have students who aren't great at sketching a design, right? It's not a skill that everyone has. It is important to be able to discuss your designs, to be able to talk about them. But we've used stuff like automated drawing, like CAD. Is used a lot in engineering, so you don't have to necessarily be able to sketch stuff completely. There are ways of doing that. AI becomes another tool that allows students to express their creativity without being a barrier. I can't draw it, or I can't, get you to visualize it for me. I can produce AI that's something that we use it for that. So it reduces those barriers to students using their creativity in some ways.
Having taught design for a few years now, one thing I've noticed in students is that they come in and they label themselves as either creative or not. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that we need to do a lot of work to start breaking down, in the sense that no one has brilliant ideas immediately. You've got to work on it. So if you get in the habit of working on it and not getting stuck at the very first solution they come up with, but keep branching out and exploring before then drilling down and delivering, that's where we can have success. And you got to give them the space to do that. You got to create activities that allow them to have flexibility, agency of what they want to do, and also peer dialogue to start ideating better. And AI can be part of that peer dialogue, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I agree. I use, for example, I'm terrible in making logos and all these things, and we have in a project, and then AI produce a very nice logo that everyone agreed on is fantastic. And it's not a barrier, but again, it goes back to the first, use it as an intern, but be aware that all those AI models are based on some databases which are being sold to this AI world or companies or tech companies. And there are biases in those. So when you are designing something or using an AI, be aware that possibly the data that the AI model is using to generate something is based on the, for example, male representations of the database and the female. So you have to think about the inclusivity, you have to think about the accessibility. So you have to be aware of all those limitations of the AI tools as well. And this is, again, goes back to that, the education side, that we have to make students aware of that there are biases in all of those tools that we use.
Yeah, I think all this you have talked about, like using AI as a tool to support creative work. But do you think AI itself can help students to produce creative work?
Can use visual stuff.
I have, talking to some student groups, they do use it for idea generation. I do sometimes challenge them because I am a bit like, don't outsource your creativity to the AI, because we don't know how creative AI is. But if it gives you some starting points that you can then bounce off, as Francisco said, that's really useful. But it's getting, I think we really want to avoid the students outsourcing their creativity to the AI, because I think that's a really key skill that we want the students to do. And actually AI can be quite rubbish at it.
Yeah, I'm asking this question because I have a student whom I talked to who is a songwriter herself. And I asked her whether AI can help her with songwriting. And she insists that AI can't write a good song because it doesn't have a soul, unlike a human being.
Maybe my last question will be, moving forward from all of this conversation about the role and future of education in this kind of AI era. So kind of like, shall we rethink the structure of education entirely of AI advancement, or what is our role in education? Are we really supporting the tool? Are we supporting the students? Are we enhancing the students to use it? What do you think?
We're more
I think we have to embrace it, and I think we have to move away from that role of knowledge transfer into the more skills development, coaching, mentoring the students through that journey, to be aware of all those risks, but at the same time learn how to use those tools as well.
I mean, the best educators are able to quickly switch between 4, 5, 6 different roles in their heads, and they have to really be flexible and adapt. You're a gatekeeper because you want to maintain a quality standard. You're a coach because you want students to produce their best work. Sometimes you're a mentor and you're giving advice, but also maybe a co-builder in the experience because you're building this actual system with them. And I think that is it's a really complex thing to address because we are always shifting our roles and practice is evolving, but the best educators have been doing this for a good while, and it's important to enable some of this discourse of recognizing what these roles are and becoming better at them, but I don't know if they have changed or if they require more change. It's very hard to answer that question.
In kind of project problem-based learning, we always talk of the teacher as the guide. You walk with the student on their journey through learning. You're not telling them where to go. And I think the best guides know your mood, know what you're interested in, know how to get you engaged in something, know what the cool thing is and where the good cafe is and where the toilets are and all of that kind of stuff. And we're always going to need academics and teachers to do that. AI is not going to be able to do that well enough, but it's something that we can use to make us better guides.
Yeah, I totally agree that we need to embrace use of AI, but at the same time, we need to let students know the positive and negative side of using AI. But at the same time, as educators, I think need to acknowledge the fact that there are always this group of students who are attending university just for their grades. So I think this is something that we need to acknowledge, and there is some limitation to how we can help support students in building up an attitude and find out, for themselves what exactly is the value of university education for them. Yeah.
Thank you. I know we have a couple of minutes remaining, so if anyone has questions.
Can I? Sorry. There are a lot of questions.
Q&A earlier.
There are a lot of questions that came through, obviously, through the QR code as well. A lot of them about critical thinking, creativity, and bias were answered, I believe, on the panel. There are also a lot of questions on the other side, on assessments, on faculty, and learning outcomes. So one question says, what are you doing differently in your assessments given most students use AI? That is, how would you be assured that the outcomes of learning are achieved?
So the way we've thought about it is very much, there's a component to assessment that students do in front of you. It's easier to do with projects because you're with them for several weeks. You can get them to do a presentation and then demo and then write some stuff up. But we're also thinking about our marking criteria. We don't just want you to say something general about a topic. One of the things with engineering is it's really important to understand the context in which you're working. Building, one of my projects is on a vaccine production plant. Building it in North America and Africa are two very different contexts, and it will work in very different ways. And so generic information about building factories is not helpful for us. And up until now, I will caveat that, AI hasn't been great at that. I think the question of whether that is the same true going forward is a big question, but getting your marking criteria to get the students to really engage with the material is a way of getting them to at least use AI in a knowledgeable way, even if they're still using it to write stuff.
I can give you an example here. Just, AI, especially ChatGPT or equivalent, is very good in coding. You ask, to write piece of, my job is modeling, but I haven't got a computer science background. So you can ask ChatGPT to write a very nice piece of code, and easily you can see that in Python. But then, what I do with the student, just give the code on the ChatGPT and say, let's analyze it. What's happening there? Can we do it better? Can we change it? Do you understand the principles of the coding and the algorithms there? And then that comes with that critical thinking on analyzing those information and not just trusting on something which is nicely presented to you in a way that convincing you this is the answer. So those are very important, and I think that's why it's going to change the assessment as well.
Personally, I've changed one of the coursework to in-class test and workshop engagement every week, where they have to submit the exercise while they are in the class and be present.
And I do get it. Assurance is a tricky beast in the sense that I am very reticent, as you say, Fiona, that the solution is like proctored, handwritten exams, because it feels like a step back. But obviously, that does have benefits. We could argue. I think, to me, and I don't have a right answer for this, I just have an instinct, which is, get involved in the learning process with your students, and then you can better understand whether they're learning or not, and then that transforms it towards assessment for learning, where you can then validate it on a different kind of checkpoint. The real challenge we have, and I'm sure you probably have because you're in a very big department, is the scale of it. How can we as educators get involved with, at a personal level, 300, 400 students? So we need to figure out better ways to teach in teams, to get students to become teachers themselves, and possibly one day to have tools that get involved in the learning tool, but that's still a little bit out of reach. So we can assess learning and learning for something. But it's one of the trickiest things that we're dealing with right now.
And we need more academics.
Way more money. That's true.
Do you have more questions?
Some of them were related to what Lillian said about students being afraid of using AI because they're discriminated against it by their professors. So how can we protect students from that? And also for Fiona, what do you do to neutralize students' fear of being exposed for their use of AI?
I think one thing is really we need to educate the teachers as well, so that they will make it clear to students right at the beginning what is their expectations. Because I learned that from the students that there are quite a lot of teachers in the arts and humanities faculty who are not open to AI, who are still insist that students should not use AI in writing their essays. But at the same time, we all know that it is not possible to ban students to use AI.
Yeah, and in terms of the fear of being found out, we talk about AI in a very positive way, that there's uses, but that there are ways that it's not very useful. And students where we do see them using a lot of AI, where they've referenced it quite a lot, we do have just kind of conversations with them. Quite often students don't realise what they've done. They don't realise quite the issues with doing these things. So it's much more of a dialogue with a student rather than, you shouldn't have done this. It's very much, this really isn't appropriate, but let's educate you on this process.
We can go with one more question from the floor.
Instead of online. Maybe you can questions from the floor. Yeah, and not all online.
Good morning, and thank you for a very interesting session. We all need to talk about this more openly, I guess. My question probably for Lillian is, how, in your plan for the AI literacy courses, how do you plan to educate or train the faculty themselves, especially now that you already acknowledged that there are, in certain specializations, faculty are still against the use of AI?
Yeah, I think you're referring to the AI Literacy 2 course to be offered by each faculty, right? So we actually made it compulsory for all faculties to submit at least one proposal for the AI literacy course. And then all the course materials and course plan will have to go through our Teaching and Learning Innovation Center. And we will be working with the teachers to basically work with them on the course outline, intended learning outcomes, assessment, and the alignment and stuff like that. Yeah. And it is part of the university policy to implement this course in the upcoming, the second semester. Of staff in the faculty. Yeah.